we're going to take a look at isolated queen-pawn game, and this is an exciting game between Jussupow and Lobron. This is going to be an attacking game by White, where White is putting a lot of pressure on Black's position, and Black is aiming to convert the positional advantage into a simpler endgame where the isolated pawn can be targeted. So the fact of the matter is that isolated queen-pawn positions can arise from different openings. In this case, this was Nimto, and Black played pre-dynamically in the center, pushing d5 and c5. White didn't react to it, and Black continued on to take on d4. White takes with the e-pawn in order to open up the bishop, and then d takes c, bishop c4, and here we go. White has an isolated pawn on d4, and Black is going to try to block it first, and then eventually try to put pressure on the d4 pawn. White is going to take advantage of the open files, advantage in development and space. So Black needs to solve the problem with the bishop on c8, which b6 is helpful. At this point, what oftentimes is the case as well is White is going to want to try to play d5. The problem with that is that if Black actually took on d5, knight takes d5, then White is in an excellent shape here, since knight d5 is going to lose this rook right here on a8. So Black would actually take on c3 first, and after b takes c, Black is going to win this pawn on d5. So d5 is not working. White is going to play rook e1, and this move is helpful in positioning the rook on an active space, putting pressure on e6, having better support for the knight. Many good things, including a potential rook lift for rook going to g3 or h3. Bishop develops, and White repositions his bishop from c4 square, which was not quite as active as d3, where d3 is shooting at h7 right there, with some nice targets there, especially if the queen is going to join the force. Black develops, and White is going to attack this bishop. Now it's a bit of a trade-off to go ahead and capture this knight on c3. On one hand, it's leading Black closer to the goal, which is to be trading pieces, but on the other hand, it gives up a fairly strong piece, the dark square bishop, for a knight, and also solidifies White's structure, where c3 is going to be supporting that isolated pawn on d4. Now, this structure is not ideal for White, since this d4 and c3 pawns are now going to be considered hanging pawns. So they're still weak, but White's attacking potential is certainly going to offset that disadvantage. a3, bishop is coming back to e7, and at this point Jussupow is building up his attack by retreating the bishop back to c2 and planning to bring his queen towards the attack. Black plays rook e8. I'm not sure if I agree with this move 100%. I guess it does help Black in coordinating the pieces, maybe leaving a little space here for the king, giving a little protection here to e6, but ultimately it certainly weakens the f7 square, which becomes essential once the knight is placed on e5, and there's potential sacrifices there on f7, where e6 becomes weak as well. So queen d3 now. White has all sorts of attacking ideas, including potentially playing d5, where this knight is going to be this knight's attention is going to be divided. So black just realizes that there's no reason to wait, and may as well just play g6 and defend the king side really well. Now that obviously defends against the threats of coming along this diagonal, but then we got a nice dark square bishop that's going to be active along the dark squares and taking advantage of all those holes. So here white is going to play h4, pushing the pawn forward, and this is kind of a cool move, pretty useful to play h5 at some point. But even then, so for example, if knight d5 blocking the d4 pawn, then white is going to play h5. Let's say rook c8, h takes g, h takes g. Now this is becoming a very soft king side out there, and white can actually go for the decisive sacrifice. You guys can take a moment and see what that would be. So white's solution here in the finishing attack is to capture this pawn on e6, and as black captures the rook, queen is going to capture on g6, and with the help of the bishop and I guess both bishops c2 and c1, the game is over in one or basically on the next move. If king f8, we got bishop h6, checkmate, and if king h8, we can finish him off with queen h7. So h4 is certainly useful to push the pawn forward, but that's not just the only idea. For example, if white played bishop g5 here, which is a fairly logical continuation, then black can try to advance his strategy with knight d5. So this is really playing into black's hands, since black is a step closer to exchanging one of the essential attacking pieces. Having exchanged either the bishop g5 or bishop on c2, the attack reduces certainly by like 50 to 100%. It really becomes way more difficult to try to break through black's defenses. So knight d5 is going to offer exchange to the bishop and to the knight on c3, where if white tries to complicate things, black can also accept the challenge, take on g5, and at the end of the day, this works out pretty well for black. For example, knight takes g5, queen takes g5, and now if white tries to make a fork, black strikes with a counterattack, knight takes d4, and this is a vicious winning counterplay here for black. So knight d5 would be the idea. So white is going to play h4, so that if white does decide to play bishop g5, the bishop is going to have some support right there. So black plays queen d6, which is kind of a standard move, not a necessary move, but certainly a move that helps black get the pieces together. And white then continues to play bishop g5. Black brings the rook to d8. That was the original idea of playing queen d6, and white brings the rook to d1. So this is a typical isolated queen pawn position, where white is building up the attack and black is solidifying as well, but with the purpose to defend the position really well. Black retreats to b8. Now it may confuse this kind of move may confuse some of you guys. Why is the queen coming back? Well, the queen's job on d6 is done. The rook had the opportunity to come through, and now it's beneficial for black to have the rook against the queen with the opposition there, instead of having the queen on d6 where it could become vulnerable. So at this point, the white is repositioning that light square bishop once again and back to the diagonal coming from b3. And right about now, we are facing a critical position where black played a6. And this is certainly not the greatest of all solutions. A better move might have been to play knight d5. And in this case, white is going to make sure that black is no longer blockading that the pawn on d4, which is better done with light pieces such as a knight, a bishop, and then maneuvering the pieces around in a way that there's always a minor piece that is in front of the pawn. So it's important to block the pawn to make sure that it doesn't go forward, doesn't get exchanged or cause any kind of trouble. So that's why I want to blockade it. But on the other hand, we don't want to just place a piece there and have it exchange and then having to take with a pawn. So now this position is certainly not the end of the world for black, but certainly white is going to be exploiting the edge, smaller edge, but certainly pretty consistent here. The bishop on b7 is a little bit stuck here with the pawn on d5. White has quite a bit more flexibility and attacking opportunities, but certainly this could have been a better chance for black to try to equalize and maybe make a draw in this game. So at this point, black displayed little caution and chose to play a6, and white definitely goes for the decisive breakthrough, which has been prepared by the previous moves, and the move is d5. So this is basically the expression of white's attack. Oftentimes, once you play d5 and the move makes sense, then white gets the advantage in the position. So here the idea is based on the fact that if pawn takes d5, then white is going to capture on e7, and f6 is going down, which gives white winning edge in the position. Black continues knight a5, so I guess that's what Lobron was hoping to play if white plays d5, but certainly he didn't predict the next move. You guys are welcome to stop the recording and see for yourself. And here's the decisive winning solution here. D takes e. Double exclaim, going against black's king. The idea being if rook takes on d3, then white picks up that pawn on f7. As the king retreats to g7 or h8, we can promote. In the case of king g7, we can under promote, and black is certainly going to be struggling to find a suitable solution. So black is already losing here. Bishop has to take, and black is going to be losing the queen. As white took on e6, black captured the bishop on b3. White continues to take on f7. King takes. And now we make a double attack. And as the king retreats, Jussupow brings the knight to e5, threatening to bring his queen to f7. Black defends with knight g8, bringing the knight back, as white is going to penetrate with the queen. King retreats back to h8, and at this point white can easily pick up the knight on b3 with the penetrating possibility of knight f7. Queen d4, rook goes to e3. White solidifies the position with the idea that after rook f8, which was played in the game, bishop takes e7, where black resigns, since after knight takes e7, knight goes to f7, and as the knight on e7 hanging, black is going to be losing another piece here in this position.